Hey everyone, this is Adam Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology. Today we are going to take a look at the upcoming Mars-Uranus conjunction in Taurus one more time. This is a transit we have explored from many different angles on several different occasions, but we are going to explore it again today because of some of the unique peripheral things that are happening around the conjunction between Mars and Taurus later in July, as well as some of the unique signatures that are part of the lead up to the conjunction. And these, I think, will give us some more hints and clues about what's in the process right now of taking place and what will take place as the two planets come together. So that is our goal for today. Before we get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe. Take a second, click the like button and subscribe. We really appreciate it when you guys join the community and support the channel. It helps everything grow. Transcripts of any of these daily talks can be found on my website, which is nightlightastrology.com. I'm going to take you over to the website right now to briefly promote a couple of upcoming events that we have. If you go to the events page, go to speaker series, you'll see the summer speaker series coming up. We have 3 talks on the 13th, 14th, and 21st of July. They're all free. You can register with the links there to receive the live login for the webinars. And if you cannot attend live, you get the recording afterward. Leading us off is T. Susan Chang on Dreaming the Decans, and she is an author and expert on the Decans, and so really a great lineup. But she's definitely like our sort of celebrity guest for the series. But also the other speakers are fantastic, exploring some really interesting subjects. Go up to the events page, click on live talks. You can see the webinars I have done month by month since early 2024. Outer Planets in Love, Neptune and Aries, 12th house. In July, on the 18th, I'm doing a talk on Uranus in Gemini called Chaos, Mind, and Magic. And this is about the ingress of Uranus into Gemini next year. If you register for that talk, you'll receive the link to attend and also the recording link if you cannot attend, so you can watch it afterward. So those are the promotions that I have for today. And let us turn our attention now to the real-time clock. Feels a little lonely in here today without Hilda. She's following Ashley around downstairs. So let's, oops, here we go. All right. So what I'm going to do is just speed this up here. So here we are, Thursday, June 27th. And we've talked this week about a few interesting events. We talked about Venus squaring the nodes of the moon. Kind of an interesting signature for relationships and for everything Venusian this week. We also talked about Mercury and the trine to Saturn and the theme or topic of emotional maturity and depth in relationships, boundaries in communication, the mind-emotional connection. So some really interesting topics that we've been looking at. What I want to emphasize here is, once again, look at what's building in the background in the sign of Taurus. Here we have Mars and Uranus slowly moving towards one another. And let's just play this out. So if we keep moving them along, we're going to see that the two planets come together. Here it is, July 15th. They conjoin on July 15th. Now, we have talked about this as a moment of tremendous revolutionary impulse, the impulse to act on behalf of change. Sometimes in a fixed sign like Taurus, that change may be a little stubborn. It may require more of an overhaul than we're comfortable with. And so it may be harder to kind of ride the momentum of the transit because there's a little bit more resistance to change. It's a little harder to make the change because of how fixed things are. In fact, one of the meanings of the solid signs is that they endure. They do not easily change, but they hold and maintain. So when you have such a revolutionary impulse, an impulse that is like the impulse to shed your skin, we just recently got a bearded dragon for my daughter, and wow, are they cute? Oh my gosh, these little lizards, man, stealing all the hearts and all the hearts of all the family members here. But they shed their skin, right? This is an impulse to shed our skin, something very physical, something that requires a very embodied Taurian level of change. This is Venusian. It is Venusian insofar as Venus is the goddess of pleasure and taste, luxury, style, She is the ruler of ease, peace, flow, enjoyment, harmony. And so this change is happening on behalf of the desire for those things. Here is what I find so interesting. Notice what's happening for Venus at almost the exact same time. Here we have on the 12th, just 3 days prior to the conjunction between Mars and Uranus, just 3 days prior. It's in the engagement range, which is 3 degrees. So that this means it's happening. It's like it's here. So, and as it's happening, Venus enters the sign of Leo and immediately opposes Pluto. So we have the ruler of the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in Taurus now being reiterated by the Mars-Uranus conjunction in Taurus. The ruler is Venus, and Venus is opposing Pluto just days before the exact conjunction of Mars and Uranus. So it's really important that we think again about the building, the growing of the tension between Mars and Uranus in terms of what Venus is doing. Now, let's bring it back to our current moment right now. Here we are again, Thursday, June 27th. On Thursday, June 27th, what's happening? Venus is just separating from the square to the nodes, right? Venus is also in the next days, by let's say Wednesday of next week, Tuesday into Wednesday, Venus will be going through the trine to Saturn. Remember that the last moon cycle in Gemini started off with a square between Venus and Saturn. So the same thing that we recently said about Mercury, who was the ruler of the last moon cycle in Gemini and also squared Saturn early on in the cycle. And we talked about this as a moment of integration, of synthesis, of learning, of development positively around the signatures of this moon cycle. We see the same thing about to happen with Venus next week. Venus is squaring the nodes, then Venus is going into a trine with Saturn, who she squared at the outset of the last cycle while she was Cazimi. Venus is also gradually separating from the sun, which means she's starting her process of rising as an evening star. If we go forward to July 15th, the other thing that is happening is we're starting to get very close to that spot where Venus will appear. By July 22nd, she is just a couple of degrees away from the appearance, and that starts happening in late July. And look at what happens as soon as Venus starts appearing. She gets that distance late July, and then almost immediately as she appears as the evening star, by early August, what takes place? Venus will square Uranus. So I know that this is kind of a long story arc we're telling here, but what I'm trying to do is just show you how these little developments from Venus are so important and how they add up over time. What do they add up to? Well, right now, because we're sort of looking at this whole process in terms of maybe the biggest transit of July, which is the Mars-Uranus conjunction, if we look again at that Mars-Uranus conjunction that's coming on July 15th, we see that that Mars-Uranus conjunction happens just days after Venus opposes Pluto. So it's as though, and you guys, I think I've said this like 10 times now, but it is as though there's a transit after transit that is reactivating the Jupiter-Uranus dynamic from April 20th. And a lot of it flows along with Venus, who is the ruler of that dynamic in the sign of Taurus. So the square to the nodes right now takes on more significance, which is why we covered it this week. The next week's trine to Saturn takes on more significance. We'll be visiting that next week. And as this building tension between Mars and Uranus, the activity of revolution is sort of, the pot's like starting to boil. But it's boiling in relation to what Venus wants and how Venus is changing. So one of the most critical things becomes identifying what Venus is doing in your life right now. And then, like, once you have that, then you kind of know where to watch. Oh, that's where the tension is starting to rise to the surface, or the plates are starting to rumble beneath the surface. We say beneath the surface because Venus is hidden under the beams of the sun, yet ruling this very revolutionary dynamic. Venus will oppose Pluto while under the beams of the sun. And then immediately Mars and Uranus get together in mid-July. When Venus finally appears into the evening sky, almost immediately she squares Uranus. So this is how I do a quick inventory, right? It's like, where is Venus in your birth chart? That will tell you a lot about the Venusian domain of life that is probably being activated by transits of Venus. If she's in your work house, if she's in the house of spirituality and higher education, is she in the place of money and business? Is she in home and family, children and creativity, health, relationships, your social life? Like, where does she show up? Or is she in the 12th house, hidden and part of unconscious material you're working on? You know what I mean? So find Venus. And then another broad, if you don't want to get into your chart, or maybe the placement of Venus isn't connecting so obviously, think of all the things that Venus rules. Which relationships are seeking revolution right now? It could be a primary partnership. It could be someone you're dating. It could be the broader approach you have to dating if you're single. It could be that something about art, aesthetic, or style is changing. It could be that personal appearance, health, beauty are changing in some way. Does Venus tend to show up very strongly in one area over another? Just locate the goddess in your life. Where is she? And what difficult button of change and revolution? Like, where is she saying, you got to shed skin, you got to slough off a layer? It may not be comfortable, but that's the button that has to be pressed. And then you can watch as that's slowly developing. We're going to be talking a lot in July when we do our monthly overview tomorrow. We'll be talking about it, but we'll be talking a lot about Venus-Pluto, so close to the Mars-Uranus dynamic in Venus's sign of Taurus. Those two events are like the epicenter of July and really are at the heart of the continued expression of Jupiter-Uranus that's been here since April. So, what else do we want to say? So next week, we had the crossing of the nodes this week. That's tension building, Venus squaring the nodes. Had Venus next week moving into a trine with Saturn, where she was squaring Saturn as she was Cazimi, right? So these are important developments. We're going to look at that one next week. Let's see, what else? Did I miss anything? Yeah. I think there's another really interesting one. Very briefly before she opposes Pluto, she'll trine Neptune. That's about July 11th. And then July 12th, she opposes Pluto. And then the 15th, Mars and Uranus combine. And then a couple of weeks later, she appears as the evening star and squares Uranus. It's like a fireworks show this year for Venus, thanks to that Jupiter-Uranus connection. Okay, anyway, I went off script today. I had no notes, but this is what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to just show everybody how closely related the Venus-Pluto dynamic is with the Mars-Uranus dynamic, and then also why some of the little moments from Venus right now are worth tracking, because they're all building toward this kind of epicenter in the middle of July. All right, that is it. I hope that you take this and do something good with it. And we will be here tomorrow. I'm really excited to introduce you guys to two new co-hosts that I have, Alexandra and Whitney. They are talented members of the Nightlight alumni community and currently enrolled students as well. And they will be joining me every month to help me break down the astrology of the month. And I think it's going to be really fun because A, they're very talented astrologers, and B, for horoscopes and for monthly overviews, I really like having conversation to break it down. I do much better with those particular episodes. I do much better with companionship than flying solo. And so I'm just really excited to have them, to introduce you to people that I think you'll really like, and to get into the astrology of July. So we'll be doing that tomorrow. All right. Hope you guys have a great day, and we will see you again soon.